Hey guys, Sammy here, host of the Digital Marketing Therapy Podcast. Excited to be here with you for another episode. I am full on in 2020 planning right now. By the time this episode airs, I'm hoping to be done with it. But I thought I would share with you how I plan for my business in 2020, what I'm doing this year that's different than previous years, and kind of what my rough goals are for next year and how I'm really diving into simplicity and not doing all of the things. So that's what I want to talk to you a little bit about today, is how I plan 2020 and how you can too, how you should. We're getting into the last quarter and I really want 2020 to be a kick-ass year for you. So let's dive into that. But before we do, this episode is brought to you by our 30-day website roadmap. What better time than the end of the year to really spend some time diving deep into your website and making sure it is working for you, that it's the tool that you need to support your business, to generate leads, to generate sales, and to keep putting you out there as the expert in your field. And again, simplicity is key. I'm not talking about it being complicated, but our 30-day website roadmap will really help you take a look and audit your site to make sure it has the elements that it needs in order to be successful. And you can download that for free at thefirstclick.net/30 days. So make sure you check it out. Okay, let's get into it. You're listening to the Digital Marketing Therapy Podcast. I'm your host, Sammy Vidal-Mulhern, and each week I bring you tips from myself and other experts, as well as hot seats with small business owners and entrepreneurs to demystify digital marketing and get you on your way to generating more leads and growing your business. So I love to plan things. I have all the ideas. I love to sit down and brainstorm. That's one of my favorite things to do with clients, is to strategize and come up with ideas. But sometimes it can become overwhelming because you come up with all the ideas and you don't have a plan to execute any of them. So I wanted to make sure I didn't do that this year. So I started H&D Marketing Solutions, which is the consultant side of my business, in 2017, middle of the year, and then added on the First Click, which is kind of the online coaching, and it's kind of what this podcast is under. Well, it is what this podcast is under. I started that in January of this year. So I am going into my 17, 18, 19, going into my fourth year, I think in April, right? And I have tried everything. I have done everything. I have really figured out kind of what works and what doesn't for me in my business, and what I want to work in my business and what I feel passionate about. And so because of all of that grind over the course of the years, I am feeling really good about going into 2020. I'm feeling excited about simplifying and really being consistent and just doing less and more of it, if that makes any sense. So simplicity is definitely key for me in 2020 in my business. And so that means taking on less one-on-one clients, because I love them dearly. I really do. But my passion and what I really love doing is my online trainings, the courses that we've developed, like really getting those out to the world. Like that's really what lights me up. So I'm choosing to take on less one-on-one clients, and really focusing just on website building and development in my business, as opposed to kind of the ongoing social media strategy, content creation, all of that stuff. So we'll still take that all into play with those websites that we work on, but really for the most part, we're kind of keeping it down and dirty and building websites for clients. And so we've got goals for that. But I've recently started using the Full Focus Planner by Michael Hyatt. I really like it. And by recently, I literally mean I think I started it October 1st. We're recording this near the end of October, so I'm almost a full month in. But it's really kind of lending me to this idea of simplicity and waking up each morning and understanding that this is what has to get done today in order to move my business forward. If I don't do these things, then I'm just being a slave to my to-do list and feeling busy, but not actually getting things done. So I love planning for the purposes of then taking it down from what's my annual goal to what's my quarterly goal to what's my monthly goal to what's my weekly goal. And the Full Focus Planner has been amazing. This is not an ad for them. I get nothing, but I'm a big fan of it. I love it so far. So I'll put the link to that in the show notes if you want to check it out. So when I think about my year ahead and how I'm going to plan for it in that way, it again is that whole element of simplicity. It breaks it down to where it doesn't have to be so overwhelming. I don't have to think about all the things. I can create my big rocks and then I can dive down into those and how I'm going to execute those in the quarter in which that I'm going to do that. And another person that I really love is Amber McCue. She's my business coach, and she does the Planathon, which unfortunately, just due to timing, by the time this one airs, will be done. But she does the same thing, really. Like, what are your 90-day goals that you need to hit in order to hit your whole plan? So that's what I'm working on right now is my annual goals. And then what that means as far as Q1, Q2, Q3, Q4. So I've already lined out my launches. So one thing that I really learned this year is that my base just isn't big enough. At the end of the day, sales, whatever business you're in, is a numbers game, right? The more people you hit, the more chances you have to convert them, and the more likely that you will hit the numbers that you want. And so while I'm not suggesting that you have to have a huge list or a lot of followers or like that's the important thing, it's more important to get into the right people. I just know that my base isn't big enough yet for what I want to accomplish. So that's one big goal, right? It's not a financial goal yet, but growing my list to a certain number, growing my, really it's just growing my list. I'm not super concerned by how many people are following me on social media. It's more about engaging with them and putting out the right content. But once they're on my email list, they're super warm. I want to keep nurturing them and I want to grow them. And I know that I can hit them and get sales from them because they already are getting quick wins from me. They're already getting training. They already see me as somebody who they can trust, I hope. And so that's really one of my big goals is trying to get people on my email list. And I want to have an email list of 1,000 by April, which is totally doable and probably even a little bit wussy. But that's what I want because April is when we do our first launch of not your starter site. We're going to launch the website laboratory again in April, which is our membership program. So that's really important. And then the other thing for me is this podcast. I love doing this podcast. I love talking to no one, not, just like there's nobody here in my room. But I love sharing things with you. I love interviewing other folks because I learn just as much from them as I know you guys do. And part of that also is getting out there and guest podcasting on as many podcasts as I can. I am making lists and starting to reach out to them with specific topics and really trying to get in front of their audiences and build my base in that way with my 30-day roadmap, which is my main lead magnet. And then kind of along with that, even though I said, social media isn't really, I have a love-hate relationship with social media. The kind of third really big thing that I want to make sure I'm doing next year is to show up consistently and regularly on Facebook Lives, on Instagram Live, wherever it makes sense. As things change, we definitely adapt to that. But again, just letting people get to know me, letting people get to know why they should care about what I'm doing, and letting people know that I care about what you're doing. Messaging is a big thing for me, and I haven't quite hit it right. And that's something that I'm working really hard on. My key messaging statements, my pain points. Because when I sit in a room and talk face to face to somebody, I can totally make you feel comfortable. I can really get you to brainstorm and create ideas and come up with concepts. And people generally walk away really excited about what can be done in the future. But it's a lot harder to do that in a social media post or, I need to do more of that on this podcast, for example. So messaging is a big thing for me in trying to really get in front of my audience, get in front of you guys and let you know what it is that I can do for you and how I can provide and support you. And not everything is through paid mediums, right? It's the same. Like, how can I support you more through this podcast? How can I support you more on social media? So that's really kind of the driver in breaking it down in my 2020 plan. So I really spent some time in my planning process thinking about, what do I want my business to look like? What lights me up and fuels me? And how can I make money doing that and feel good about it? Because money sometimes is a thing that people, feel shame about. And I'm not talking about making hundreds of thousands of dollars next year, right? We're still growing. We're early in our business, and we've done a lot of testing and refining, and we're working on creating programs and courses that we know will provide value. And we're in it for the long game, right? We're not here for the quick wins. We're in it for the long game. So once I kind of have that emotional piece of my business done, this is just how I like to do it. Now I'm going to be diving into the numbers, because I hate numbers. I hate them. I understand their purpose. I know I need to track them. I work with a gal, Megan Fries, who's going to be on a podcast episode here coming up in a few weeks, talking with us about systems in our business and how we can get it going so that we can start making more money and organize ourselves. But I work with her, and she helps me with spreadsheets that I can understand, numbers I can understand. And it's just about getting away from that fear of, what am I going to see when I work on my books, to a place of, if I work on my books, it can empower me to be creative, because I know what's happening. I know my successes. I can pivot. I can tweak quickly. And so with that, in the simplicity piece of that as well is, really paying attention to where I spent my money this year on my business, and what things can I cut out? What programs do I not need to be a part of anymore? What memberships do I not need to be a part of anymore? Or do I, what's actually helping me drive my business goals and get me to where I need to be? So financial planning is kind of the next piece, getting into my books and taking a look at how I am operating. So I don't even have a sales goal for next year right now. I have a rough goal of what I know I need to make in order to support my family. But when it comes to my business, I really like to brainstorm what I really would like to see and then go from there. Because otherwise I feel that if I start with the numbers, then it turns into, okay, how am I going to make the money versus what opportunities might I be overlooking if I start the other way? If I start with, these are the dreams that I have for my business, this is where I really want to be, and I'm going to put it out to the universe that I'm going to have, this crazy year, and I'm going to create these 3 products that I've always wanted to create, and we're going to put them out there, and that's going to be our whole focus, right? For me, it's just the membership and the course. We're going to launch them twice next year. That's it. And then we're going to focus on nurturing and creating good relationships with all of you folks out there, and getting to know you all better, and letting you guys get to know me better. And I'm excited about that. And then focusing on website builds to bring in the revenue that we need to bring in the business during the year, right? Simplifying it, keeping it clean. We've got new structure in place. So I just wanted to kind of share that information with you, and just kind of give you some thoughts in how I plan and figure out what my life is going to look like. It might not work for you. It might not be the best or most effective way to do it, but it's what works for me. And if you could see my wall, you would see it's covered with giant Post-it notes for kind of the content creation that I know I'm going to do for myself and for my daughter on our podcast through May. So we've got podcast episodes scheduled out through, let's see, May 26th. Well, we don't have them all exactly lined out yet. We do have some small business owners and experts that we still need to pull through. If you want to be featured on our podcast, by all means, hit me up. But we're planning our content out that far. And actually in 2 weeks, the next episode we're going to be talking about is how I plan my content for the year, how I pull it together, and giving you some ideas for doing that. So it doesn't become a stressful thing, and it can be a fun and creative task for you. So I'd love to hear how you plan. I'd love to hear if you're a paper planner or a digital planner. Like I said, I use the Full Focus Planner by Michael Hyatt, and I use a lot of tools from McCue, which I love. And I can link up some of those in the show notes. But I want to know, I have a dream of going and doing a 2-day retreat by myself and just getting a hotel room and really getting down and dirty with my business and creative and brainstorming and really, creating a space to come up with ideas and dreams. Not doing that this year, but one day maybe I'll do that. But then once you have all of those things, how do you simplify? So I really want to challenge you to do one big thing next year. Like, what's the big thing that you're going to do? Mine is really building my base and foundation. That's going to lead to the long-term success of my business and my growth. And so I'm taking that time to slow down and focus on that. So what is going to be the one thing that is going to get you to where you've always wanted to be? And not where you are now in the grind of everything, but if you could take a step back, what's going to get you to your ultimate dream, and how can you pivot in order to get there? So that's really what I want you to think about. And I would love to hear your dreams. You can leave them for me on Facebook and Instagram at The First Click Marketing, or in the comments below this episode at thefirstclick.net/29. I thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Digital Marketing Therapy Podcast and all the episodes that you've listened to. I am so excited. This was a big thing for me this year as a goal to plan and launch the Digital Marketing Therapy Podcast. And now that we're in 29 episodes, it's super fun and it's still going strong, and I'm excited for what 2020 has to hold. So I hope you'll subscribe wherever you listen so that you can never miss an episode, so you can never. Maybe working on my English language should be a part of my goals for 2020. But please subscribe wherever you listen. I would really love for you to catch all these episodes. And like I said, if you want to be featured on one of our business hot seats, hit me up. I would love to chat with you about it. But for now, have a great week. Get to planning, and I look forward to seeing you next week.